Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about my top 5 favorite films. Now, one thing that I need to make you aware of is that these are my top 5 favorite films as of today, November 21st, 2021. I'm certain that a few months from now or a few years from now, this list will be very different. So, if you are watching this video in the future, just be aware of that my opinions will change, and this list might not reflect my opinions as they currently stand in the future. Because a lot of people assume that if you create a list that 5 years from now that you will have the exact same opinions, but that's certainly not the case. However, most of these movies will, in some shape or form, continue to be my favorite films, but obviously tastes change and lists change, and so I just want to make you aware of that. And of course, there are certain movies that I haven't seen yet that I will probably include on lists in the future, so keep that in mind as well, because a lot of people seem to forget that when it comes to lists. Well, coming in at number 5 is All About Eve. Now, this is the movie that my opinion has changed on the most, because when I saw All About Eve a few years ago, a lot of the witty dialogue just went completely over my head. I didn't really understand a lot of it, therefore I didn't enjoy it that much, but I returned to the film recently and watched it again, and I was able to understand a lot of intricacies and a lot of complexities that I just couldn't grasp before, and that's why All About Eve is one of my favorite films, and mainly because it has really good dialogue. It has really witty dialogue. Sometimes the dialogue is very poetic. For example, when Eve says, It's like waves of love coming over the footlights and wrapping you up." You just don't hear dialogue like that very often, because most films, even films that have really compelling characterization or plots or cinematography, most films usually have really lackluster dialogue. Mainly because a lot of screenwriters are afraid that if they don't sound naturalistic, that a lot of people will say, well, that's being unrealistic, you shouldn't do that. Well, one of the things I like about Joseph Mankiewicz is that he's not afraid to make characters sound poetic and intelligent, and like they actually know what they're talking about. He's not afraid to be intellectual, and that's why I really admire the film All About Eve for that reason, because, again, so few films have really good dialogue. If a film does have good dialogue, it's usually because it's based on a play, where dialogue is far more important. But that's the reason why I love All About Eve, and that's why I included it on this list. Coming in at number 4 is The Black Cat, the Universal film from 1934. Now, the reason why I like The Black Cat, and some people might be surprised by this, because it's not a Universal monster film that people automatically think of. A lot of people think of either Dracula or Frankenstein, but I truly do believe that the Black Cat's quality surpasses them in terms of story and themes. Of course, it's not the most iconic film, I'll admit that, but I wanted to include at least one Universal monster movie on the list, because the reason why I got into classic film to begin with was because of the Universal monsters, and I definitely have a heartwarming nostalgia for the Universal monsters. Probably when I watch a Universal monster film, I just get this really warm feeling inside, and I tend to enjoy those films far more than other kinds of films. So I wanted to include it on this list, and mainly because it deals. And I'm not going to go into the plots of these films on the list, mainly because I I find doing that to be really tedious and boring. So you can look up the plots to these movies, obviously. But it deals with Satan worship in a very overt way, I might add, and it deals with darkness and evil and the character that Bela Lugosi plays. He's very morally gray. There are a lot of moral grays in the Black Cat, and sometimes you don't know whether he's the villain or the hero. And it's a very enriching role for Bela Lugosi, a role that he didn't get to play too well. And Bela Lugosi is probably my favorite actor in terms of actors that I like watching on the silver screen, and that's why I really love The Black Cat, because it just deals with a lot of deep and complex themes, and it's definitely a film that more people need to know about. It's probably the only film on this list that doesn't have some kind of iconic status. It's a very underrated film for that reason. And coming in at number 3 is Chinatown. Now, Chinatown is probably the most recent movie on this list in terms of when it was made, even though it's set in the 1930s, but it was made in the 70s. And, of course, there is some controversy around this film because of Roman Polanski, the director, and all of that. But, again, it is still possible for flawed human beings to make good art. I mean, just because you make good art, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a terrific human being. And I might make a video about that in the future, about can you separate the art from the artist and all of that. But the reason why I like Chinatown is that because it exemplifies all of the great things about film noir. But because it was made after the studio era, it was able to deal with a lot of controversial material that simply couldn't have been dealt with if it had been made in the 30s or the 40s, and because of that, it has a very deep emotional resonance that I quite enjoy. And Chinatown is another one of those films, though, that grows on you. I didn't really take to it the first time that I saw it, but over time I started to enjoy it more and more and more as I got into the intricacies and the complexities of the plot. And Jack Nicholson truly does exemplify that kind of hard-boiled detective kind of swagger that Humphrey Bogart demonstrated in previous decades, and that's why I really enjoy the film, because I think it truly represents what is best about the film noir genre, but without the constraints of the production code. Coming in at number 2 is Vertigo. Now, the reason why I like Vertigo is because for some reason it's a very haunting film. It captures your imagination, and you really start to empathize to a certain degree with the Jimmy Stewart character, even though sometimes perhaps you shouldn't. And it has really gorgeous cinematography, and especially of San Francisco, and it just has a really deep sense of atmosphere, a very eloquent sense of atmosphere that really captures your imagination and really draws you in. It really, in some ways, it really makes me wish that I could have experienced San Francisco as it was in the 1950s, before it was taken over by the hippies in the late 60s, of course. But no, Vertigo is just a very beautiful film, a very haunting film. And it's a mystery, but it's also a ghost story. And for some reason, I just keep returning to Vertigo over and over again. And it has an ending that is very shocking, even though I saw Vertigo when I was very little. So I've always kind of known the ending because I saw it on a VHS tape when I was very little. But of course, I couldn't appreciate the film then. I had to wait later on in order to truly appreciate it. But I just really enjoy the film, especially since it really, because he kind of treats the Kim Novak character as as an artistic object, something that he can shape and mold to his own desires and to his own specifications, and I think that's something that Alfred Hitchcock dealt with in his own life as well. The idea of trying to create a character out of a facade, out of a real human being. That's something that all artists have contemplated and dealt with on some level, and that's why I truly enjoy Vertigo. Now, coming in at number 1 is Casablanca. Now, some of you might think, how could you choose such a mainstream choice in terms of classic movies? And it is in terms of classic movies, because most people who aren't classic movie fans have never heard of Casablanca. But if you're a classic movie fan, you've definitely heard of this film. Now, why is it number 1? Well, mainly because I think that Casablanca has a bit of everything. And it's the kind of film that I can enjoy regardless of what mood that I'm in. Because sometimes I'll get into a mood where all I want to do is watch Western movies, or sometimes I'll get into a mood where I'll want to do is watch film noir movies. Sometimes I'll be like, The Searchers is my favorite movie because all I want to watch is Westerns. Or sometimes I'll think the film Crisscross, which is a film noir film, is my favorite movie because all I'm watching right now is film noir. But Casablanca is a film that I can come back to and enjoy regardless of what mood that I'm in. And I think it's because it has a bit of everything. It has mystery, it has intrigue, it's a romance film, yet it's an action film, yet it's kind of a film noir, yet not of a film noir. It just has a bit of everything. I think it exemplifies perfectly what old Hollywood filmmaking was truly about. And it has an ending that is somewhat bittersweet, but it also uplifts you at the same time. So I think with the film Casablanca, everything came together, and I certainly enjoy Casablanca more than Citizen Kane. Now, you might have noticed that Citizen Kane isn't on this list, but that's mainly because I do consider Citizen Kane to be somewhat overrated. Well, yes, it's true that Citizen Kane had a lot of innovative cinematography, and certainly it is a good movie. I'm not denying that. But to me, if you're going to call something the greatest film of all time, it needs something more than just innovative cinematography. It also needs captivating story. And I just don't find Citizen Kane to be very captivating story-wise. The story I find to be just quite average for some reason. So that's why I believe Casablanca overall is a better film than Citizen Kane, although it's not quite as innovative, obviously. And this is coming from someone who really likes Orson Welles. But for some reason, I've just never taken to Citizen Kane. I think some of his later work, like Touch of Evil, I think those films in some ways are far superior to Citizen Kane. So those are my top 5 favorite films. Again, as of today, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want, you can subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.